So I am just showing you some gods. There are so many other gods and goddesses of Egypt, but I am only giving you around 8. Okay, all right, so let's start. So first we have Anubis. This is our focus, Anubis. Why? Because Anubis is considered to be the most important ancient god of Egypt. Of course, there are other more popular gods and goddesses in Egypt, but during ancient times, Anubis is considered the most significant, the most popular, and the most important. Okay? So, how would you know if it's Anubis? He is an anthropomorphized jackal or dog as a head. Okay? So, Anubis, he is easily recognized when you see this look, okay, the one on the left. When you see the jackal head, okay? Mostly the jackal head. Kasi yung dog head, ginamit din niya ni Set eh. Pero yung jackal, hindi niya ginamit. Okay, Set is another god. Okay, so he is the Egyptian god of the afterlife and the Egyptian god of mummification. So he taught Egyptians how to mummify so that they could preserve corpses. So he is known as the divine embalmer. Okay, ang Panginoong embalsamador, parang ganyan, okay? So he helped judge souls after their death and guided lost souls into the afterlife. That's why he is very important, because in Egypt, people do not live long. The people there, they die right away because of the heat. They don't have good drinking water. Okay, they have the Nile River, which is a good source of water, but not for drinking water. Okay, so most of them get sick, and then there's, of course, the heat. It's a very deserted place, okay? The lands are not really fertile, right? So everything is very dry. And of course, there are a lot of rhinoceros and hippopotamus in the Nile River. And every once in a while, when somebody goes to the river to get water, they fall down and they get swallowed or eaten or killed by the hippopotamus. So if you reach the age of 50, you're already lucky. That's how it is in Egypt before. That's why it's important that when you die, you get to enjoy your afterlife. And who will guide you to the afterlife? It's Anubis, the divine embalmer. Okay? So therefore, Anubis was not evil, but rather one of the most important gods who kept evil out of Egypt. Because they believed that if the souls of those who died would still roam on earth, then there's evil roaming. So there should be a place for the dead souls. And to be able to reach that place of the dead souls, which is the afterlife, Anubis is there to escort them or to give them safe passage towards the afterlife, okay? So Anubis is the Egyptian god of mummification and the afterlife, as well as the patron god of lost souls and the helpless, because some souls, they don't know where to go. They just forget, or they don't know that they died, so they get lost on the way to the afterlife. So there is a path. So Anubis makes sure that the lost souls get into this path, going to the meadow of reeds. Okay, so that's how they call their heaven, meadow of reeds. Anubis is one of the oldest gods of Egypt, who most likely developed from the earlier and much older jackal god Wepwawet, with whom he is often confused, okay? So Anubis's more ancient name is Wepwawet, okay? So yun yung pangalan niya in ancient times, si Anubis. Now, in some records, Anubis was already merged into Osiris. Si Osiris kasi nung namatay, siya na yung nag-take over ng underworld, okay? So most people would think of the god of the underworld as Osiris instead of Anubis. But it really is Anubis. So ganyan yan, yung pinaka-ancient si Wepwawet. Tapos yung more recent records, Anubis. Tapos more recent records ulit, Osiris. Sila yung mga considered god of the underworld. Okay? Okay, next. We have Geb, who is the god of earth. He is also described as the father of snakes, okay? And he represented crops and healing. How would you know it's him if he has a goose on his head and he has a beard, okay? So Geb, since he is the god of earth, he is known to be the one causing earthquakes. And when do earthquakes happen? When he laughs. Okay, so every time he laughs, earthquakes happen. That's the belief of the Egyptians. Okay, he was the son of Shu, who is the god of air, and Tefnut, who is the goddess of moisture. And how was he conceived? He was conceived out of spit. Ganon kasi yung ano nila yung kapag yung Diyos dumura, ayun na yun. Meron nang nagfo-form dun sa dura niya. So that's how Geb was formed, okay? So Shu and Tefnut, they spat, and then one of the drops of the saliva became him, okay, became Geb. He had an important role in the Book of the Dead as the one who weighs the heart of the dead in the judgment hall of Osiris, okay? So how does he weigh the heart of the dead? If it is as light as a feather, then you can go into the afterlife, okay? So he helps Anubis in doing this, okay? The ancient Egyptians believed that he also retained the souls of the wicked. Okay, so according to other records, he makes sure that the souls of the wicked are retained in the underworld so that they won't wreak havoc and make the living people's lives in danger. Okay, or put the people's lives in danger, those who are still living. So Geb was worshipped in Lower Egypt as the earth god, and he was depicted as a bearded man with a goose on his head who was the provider of crops. And remember, he is a healer. Okay, so he is also the god of healing, si Geb. So that's Geb, the god of earth. Now we have Horus, who is the god of vengeance. He has a special position in ancient Egypt because he is the child of Osiris and Isis. And just like Zeus, he avenged himself, okay? But it's because Seth, the brother of Osiris and Isis, killed Osiris. And Isis, who doesn't have Horus as a child yet, because after Osiris died, his body parts were scattered by Seth. Okay, so Isis went all throughout Egypt to look for the body parts of Osiris. And then through sorcery, she put them all back. And then there was one piece missing, the penis of Osiris, which Seth kept hidden. But, okay, Isis, who has an animus, the scorpions were able to find the penis of Osiris somewhere in the desert, and they brought it to her. So Isis said, ayan na, ito na yung hinahanap ko. Okay, so then with sorcery, she was able to conceive Horus, even though Osiris was dead. That is the origin of necrophilia, or having sex with the dead, okay? So Horus was born out of that. And Horus became the god of vengeance because Isis was thrown out of the palace because of Seth, when Seth ruled Egypt. So what Isis did is she lived among the mortals and made sure that when Horus was at the ripe age, pagdating ng pagkabinata ni Horus, okay, when Horus was already around 22 years old, she brought him back to the palace and saying, this is the right ruler. So yun, back with the vengeance si Isis. Kaya si Horus ang god of vengeance, because Horus now takes the throne away from the evil god Seth, Seth, okay? So according to myth, he is considered also as the child of Zeb and Nut, okay? And he has a falcon head with a crown of red and white, okay? He was worshipped as the god of sky, war, protection, and light, okay? And he is known to have a really good eye. So he can see really small things, okay? And the eye of Horus, or the Wedget eye, was personified as the goddess Wadjet and was popularly known as the eye of the Ra, which is the eye that you can see carved on the palm of a hand. Okay, so you might be seeing this, yung may kamay tapos may mata dun sa kamay. Yun, eye of Horus ang tawag dun. Okay? And it symbolizes that everything was being watched from above, okay? Or you are being watched. So it's also considered the eye of protection. So aside from that, Horus represents the power and importance of the sun and the sky in all aspects of ancient Egyptian life. He serves as provider and protector of the Egyptian people, especially the pharaohs, okay? One of the most important symbols associated with him, aside with the eye of Horus, is the falcon head, okay? And this falcon head god is also the patron of all birds. Okay? Kaya yung mga, isasabi nila yung mga mata ng mga ibon, magaganda, magagaling, nakakatingin talaga ng maliliit na bagay. Okay, so that's Horus for you. Next, we have Mut, the mother goddess. Okay? If the falcon head is Horus, Mut has a vulture head. Okay, vulture is another type of bird, okay? Because the ancient Egyptians considered the vulture to be a protecting and nurturing mother, okay? And their word for mother is Mut, okay? From vulture, Mut. Okay, so Mut in ancient Egyptian religion is a sky goddess and a great divine mother. She is thought to have originated in the Nile River Delta or in Middle Egypt. Okay, all right? So si Mut, para siyang sa Greek, kumbaga, if you will compare it to the Greek mythology, Mut, the mother goddess, is like Gaia and Hera combined, okay? Okay, next we have Osiris, who is the husband of Isis. He is the king of the living, also known as Uzziah, or one of the most important gods of ancient Egypt. And this dual role combined is the concept of what divine kingship really is, okay? All right, so when he died, like what I told you, he became Osiris, the god of the underworld, and the dead king's son, the living king, was identified with Horus the Younger, a god of the sky. Why did I say Horus the Younger? Kasi may Horus the Older. Kumbaga may junior. Yung anak niya with Isis, yun yung Horus Junior. Pero anak siya ni Horus Senior. Okay? All right. So, as well as being a god of the dead and of the living, Osiris was a god of resurrection and fertility. Okay. In fact, the ancient Egyptians believed that Osiris gave them the gift of barley, which is one of their most important crops. Okay. Hindi na kasi nagra-rice ang mga Egyptians. Ano sila, puro wheat and barley. A large temple was also built in honor of Osiris at Abydos, Egypt. Okay, so that's Osiris, the king of the living. Next, we have the god of the sun and radiance, the god Ra, who created himself from the primordial chaos. Okay, so he is parang the father of all the gods. Okay, siya yung father ng lahat ng gods, and he is not with them in the palace, okay, the palace of the gods and the goddesses, but he is higher up, okay, higher up. He is outside of the earth. Kaya nga siya god of the sun, si Ra. He is also known as Re and Atum, okay. His children are Shu, who is the god of dry air and father of the sky, and his twin sister Tefnut, who is the goddess of moisture and wetness. Kumbaga mga lolo ni Horus Jr., lolo and lola ni Horus Jr. So ito great-grandfather na ni Horus Jr. As a lion-headed goddess nga pala, Tefnut is responsible for dew and freshness, okay? So mix dry air with moisture and wetness, and then you form something. You create the world, okay? But of course, you need fire for a lot of things, and you need the heat of the sun. So it is a very important role, si Ra. And everyone praises him, everyone prays to him and worships him. I mean, there are different gods and goddesses, diba? Before, like Osiris, Isis, Mut. Not everyone worships them, but everybody worships Ra because he is the father of all the gods. Okay, he is responsible for life, light, and warmth. Okay, so Ra, the sun god, was worshipped by the pharaohs as the primary deity of Egypt. And then we have Sekhmet, who is the goddess of war and healing. Okay, so if Geb is the god of healing, Sekhmet is the goddess of healing. But she's also the goddess of war, okay? She leads and protects the pharaohs during war. She's the daughter of Ra. She is a lioness. And she is known for her fierce character, like Athena in Greek mythology, okay? She is known as the powerful one. She is capable of destroying the enemies of her allies. She is depicted with the solar disk and uraeus, an Egyptian cobra, which was associated with royalty and the divine, okay? So Sekhmet sometimes goes to the underworld and helps out with Anubis. And what does she do? Okay. She assists in the judgment hall of Osiris. Okay. She is an arbitrator. Kasi sa judgment hall, may jury dyan jury ng gods. So if you die, you don't get judged by only one god. You get judged by different gods. Okay? So para kang may thesis defense. Tapos may panel discussion, and they will decide, they will judge you. So she is one of those. She assists the goddess Ma'at in the judgment hall. Okay? So marami silang mga gods and goddesses weighing whether you should be allowed safe passage to the afterlife, or you will be retained, okay? Retained in the underworld. So it depends on whether you have been good or bad. Okay, Sekhmet is also spelled Sakmet, okay? And aside from being the goddess of war and being the destroyer of the enemies of her allies, she is also the destroyer of the enemies of the sun god Ra, or Re. She is also associated with disease, with healing, and with medicine, okay? And like other fierce goddesses in the Egyptian pantheon, and like Osiris and Horus, she also has this distinct symbol, which is called the Eye of Re. And you can see it here. Yan. Okay, so that's Sekhmet.